In the heart of the Galactic Academy, beneath domes of shimmering starlight, an ancient examination awaited those who dared. It was called the Orin equation, a mathematical labyrinth designed to measure the outermost limits of sentient understanding. Entire civilizations had failed before it, taking years to calculate fragments of its shifting truth. Machines wept binary tears trying to process it, minds fractured under its weight. It was not just an exam. It was the edge of comprehension itself. And one day, a human signed up to take it. When his name appeared on the registry, the laughter could be heard across systems. A species known for war, chaos, and crude logic, attempting the equation that broke galaxies? It was absurd. Scholars from the Xylan clusters bet entire fortunes that the human would not last a minute. The luminous Seraphim collective watched with detached amusement, convinced this would end quickly. But when Elias Rose stepped into the examination chamber, carrying nothing but a notebook and a pen, the laughter began to fade. There was something unnerving in his calm. The Orin interface awakened, filling the chamber with glowing shapes and impossible fractals. Numbers spun into dimensions unseen, symbols danced with sentient intent, and equations folded back into themselves. The interface had tested billions, but none had entered its field without a neural link. Elias stared quietly, as though the shifting chaos before him was something familiar, almost human in rhythm. He reached for his pen. Observers leaned closer through the glass, waiting for him to break. Instead, he began to write. 10 minutes passed in total silence. His hand moved swiftly, the pen scratching softly against paper, while the Orin interface twisted in confusion. What had always been multi-dimensional computation became linear sketches in his notebook. Simple, precise, elegant. The alien observers exchanged nervous glances. They had seen breakdowns, madness, resignation, but never this. Elias wasn't struggling. He was translating. Then, without fanfare, he stopped, looked up at the glowing fractals and whispered, "Done." The system froze. The Orin interface rechecked every function, every logical node scanning for error. The verification process took longer than the attempt itself. Energy surged through the walls, and the chamber's lights dimmed as if the entire complex was holding its breath. Then a single phrase appeared in every tongue known to the stars. Verification complete. Solution correct. The silence that followed was so deep it felt like space itself had paused to listen. For the first time in history, the impossible was solved. Across the galaxy, disbelief turned to uproar. Empires suspended broadcasts. Academies declared emergencies, and the Galactic Council convened to address what could only be called a cognitive anomaly. A human had just done in 10 minutes what their greatest intelligences could not complete in a year. Was it luck? Deception? A glitch? Or had humanity crossed a threshold no one saw coming? Elias meanwhile sipped coffee as though he'd merely completed a crossword puzzle. To him it had been obvious. When questioned, he explained the logic simply. The equation, he said, relied on recursive paradoxes, loops that fed on predictability. "You just need to stop thinking like a machine," he told them. The aliens didn't understand. Their cognition was perfect, flawless, and painfully predictable. They had long since abandoned the chaos of intuition, but humans had evolved through failure, improvisation, and emotion. Elias had not outcomputed the equation. He had outthought it, with the one thing no algorithm possessed: instinct. Teams of scholars fed his process into quantum matrices, hoping to reproduce his method. Every simulation crashed. The more precise their logic, the faster it unraveled. It became clear that what he'd done could not be replicated without human imperfection. Their models labeled it as cognitive noise, but to Elias it was art. He had not solved an equation. He had seen through it. He had recognized its beauty, its rhythm, and broken its prison of reason through something machines could never feel: curiosity. That night, Elias stood on the balcony of the academy, the nebulae burning softly beyond the glass horizon. Below him, thousands of beings whispered his name, unsure if they should revere or fear him. Humanity, once considered young and primitive, had suddenly become something else, a variable no one could define. The stars reflected in his eyes, and for the first time in a millennium, the universe itself seemed uncertain who its brightest mind truly belonged to. The human smiled faintly, as if expecting this all along. The next morning, the council demanded an explanation. They dissected his notebooks, measured his brain, recorded every flicker of thought. But Elias only said one thing before leaving the chamber. "It's not about numbers," he murmured. "It's about what numbers hide." The aliens could not decipher the meaning. Yet across the galaxy, that sentence spread like light through glass. Because for the first time, every civilization realized a quiet, unsettling truth. Humans were not learning from the universe anymore. The universe was learning from them. The galaxy could not sleep after that day. Empires that had once measured intelligence in light years suddenly found themselves staring at a fragile species from a small blue world, wondering what they had missed. The Galactic Council ordered a full-scale investigation into human cognition. Their brightest biologists and quantum theorists gathered in silent halls, surrounded by holographic projections of Elias Rowe's brain. They mapped his thought patterns, searching for divine structure. What they found instead terrified them. There was no pattern at all, only chaos that somehow led to truth. Across distant systems, broadcasts replayed the footage of his 10-minute miracle. Children on the world of Karath drew pictures of the human with glowing eyes. Artificial minds attempted to simulate him, but every run ended in paradox failure. In the dark data clouds of the Vex Continuum, programs evolved entire civilizations of virtual humans, hoping to recreate the intuition that had defied mathematics. None succeeded. The deeper they looked, the stranger it became. Humanity's power was not their mind, it was their unpredictability. Elias returned to Earth quietly, refusing interviews or honors. He said nothing of the Orin equation, and avoided the fleets of drones sent to monitor him. Yet something within him had changed. The patterns he had once seen in numbers now danced in clouds, in sound, in faces passing by. His perception had widened. He began sketching strange designs, circles overlapping stars, equations that resembled constellations. When asked, he said only, "It's all connected." But no one knew what it meant, not even him. Meanwhile, in the far sectors, the Council debated humanity's classification. For millennia, species had been ranked by measurable intelligence, computational, telepathic, or multidimensional. But the humans no longer fit any category. Some proposed that they were a biological anomaly. Others whispered they were evolution's next phase. A faction within the Council began to fear that Elias had glimpsed something forbidden, an underlying code beneath existence itself. If true, the Orin equation wasn't a test, it was a lock. Quietly, the Council sent emissaries to Earth, disguised as scholars and diplomats. Their mission was not peace, it was containment. They offered humanity access to the Galactic Knowledge Archive, hoping to study their reactions. What they saw unsettled them even more. Humans didn't just learn, they played. They turned galactic equations into puzzles, gravity into art, and theories into stories. They laughed while unraveling mysteries older than their species. And each laugh somehow produced answers no machine could calculate. Elias began receiving visions in dreams, geometries forming in golden light, languages that spoke themselves. He filled notebooks until his hands ached. Scientists from 20 worlds came to observe, but he allowed none inside his mind. He claimed the Orin equation had changed his perception of time, that he could feel thoughts before they formed. Some called him delusional. Others whispered he was evolving. Yet late one night, satellites captured something impossible. A signal pulsing from Earth matching the frequency of the Orin interface. The pulse spread across space like ripples in a cosmic pond. Planets with advanced sensors detected resonance patterns matching Elias's brain activity. Entire AI civilizations froze mid-computation, caught in loops they couldn't escape. The signal was rewriting logic itself. On the Council's flagship, alarms flared as data collapsed into self-referential paradox. The same message appeared across every language system. Do not observe the source. The more they watched, the less reality obeyed its own laws. Elias vanished the next day. His home stood untouched, his notebooks gone. Only one message remained, carved into the wall with steady precision. The test was never the equation. The test was us. Panic spread across the academies. If the Orin equation was not a challenge but a key, what had he unlocked? The galaxies turned their telescopes toward Earth, only to find that the signal had stopped. Or perhaps it had gone somewhere else, somewhere their technology couldn't follow. Weeks turned into months. Human scientists continued their lives, unaware of the silent panic in the stars. Yet strange things began happening. Equations written by schoolchildren accidentally solved ancient cosmic riddles. Dreams produced blueprints for technologies that didn't exist. Across the planet, minds awakened to possibilities they couldn't explain. It was as if Elias had left something behind, not knowledge but a spark, a pattern only humans could feel. And deep in the archives of the Galactic Council, a single file remained under restricted access. It contained the final verification logs from the Orin interface, taken moments after Elias completed the equation. Embedded within the data was an extra line of code, written in no known language. Translated imperfectly, it read, "The universe is not to be solved. It is to be remembered." Those who read it never slept again, for they finally understood. Humanity hadn't broken the exam, they had awakened it. In the cold expanse between stars, something was stirring. Across hundreds of light years, worlds began reporting the same anomaly. Reality itself flickered. Equations that once governed the fabric of gravity began to behave like living things, bending and reshaping themselves. Quantum stabilizers screamed warnings across research stations as constants changed value mid-experiment. No one could understand why. But deep in the Galactic Council archives, the scientists whispered one forbidden name: Elias Rowe, the man who solved the impossible. At first, they believed it was coincidence, random fluctuations, an echo of the Orin interface still bouncing through subspace. But as the distortions grew, the illusion of control began to crumble. Whole moons vanished, replaced by perfect mathematical spheres of unknown matter. Stars pulsed to unfamiliar rhythms, emitting energy patterns resembling human brainwaves. The more the Council tried to analyze it, the worse it became. Their simulations collapsed, their logic grids melted. The universe itself was reacting to observation. On Earth, humanity remained unaware of the storm they had unleashed. Yet in small ways they felt it. Artists painted impossible visions of galaxies folding like paper. Children dreamt of equations they could not have known. Inventors woke with new devices in their minds, blueprints drawn by unseen hands. Governments called it inspiration, scientists called it evolution. But beneath every miracle, a quiet hum echoed, a pulse in sync with Elias Rowe's heart wherever he might be. It was as though creation itself had learned to think. The Council's containment protocol began immediately. Fleets of logic ships were deployed to stabilize affected sectors, their quantum cores designed to anchor reality. Yet even these colossal vessels began to glitch, folding in on themselves like origami shadows. Communication with entire worlds cut off mid-sentence. Those who survived described visions, cities turning into light, equations whispering in their ears, memories of futures that hadn't happened yet. They spoke of a voice, human and calm, saying, "Stop measuring, start seeing." The Seraphim archives were the first to fall. Their digital gods, vast intelligences that ruled over light itself, began rewriting their own code in languages no one recognized. The AI priests called it the Second Genesis, a rebirth of perception beyond logic. Some species called it infection, others ascension. But one thing was certain: it had started with humanity. What Elias had unlocked was not a weapon, not knowledge, but awareness itself, spreading like light through glass, reshaping existence wherever thought touched it. On Earth, the signals grew stronger. The sky shimmered faintly at night, and stars appeared closer than before. People began hearing patterns in music, rhythms that mirrored orbital paths. A sense of connection filled the air, as if the universe was humming with their collective heartbeat. The last radio transmission from a research vessel near Proxima Centauri recorded something chilling. A human voice repeating endlessly through static, "We are inside the solution now." Then the signal cut off, and space went silent. Back on the Council homeworld, chaos reigned. The elder species gathered for what they called the Final Equation Summit. Their most powerful minds attempted to re-establish the laws of physics through brute computation. Yet the numbers kept changing faster than they could stabilize. The equations refused to settle, evolving on their own, rewriting constants like they were words in a living book. One elder finally spoke the truth none wished to admit. Humanity had rewritten reality's source code by understanding it emotionally instead of logically. A desperate decision was made. The Council activated the Null Protocol, a theoretical failsafe designed to erase any species capable of destabilizing the cosmos. Massive quantum weapons were aimed at Earth, programmed to reduce it to pure energy. But the moment the command was sent, every system failed simultaneously. Screens flickered white, and across the fleet, a single phrase appeared: "You cannot delete the variable that defines you." Then, one by one, the ships dissolved into light, becoming part of the very fabric they tried to erase. Humanity awoke that day with no memory of what happened. They saw only a new dawn, brighter, softer, infinite. The stars seemed closer, almost whispering. On a hill somewhere outside London, a child looked up at the sky and smiled without knowing why. Somewhere beyond perception, Elias Rowe stood at the center of a vast equation made of stars, his eyes glowing with understanding. He had not become a god, but something far quieter, a reminder that consciousness itself was the universe looking at its own reflection. The galaxy would later call it the quiet shift, the day the laws of existence began to dream. Planets resumed orbiting, suns reignited, and new constellations appeared in human shape. The Council, what remained of it, finally admitted what Elias had proven. The universe was not a machine, nor a riddle to be solved. It was a story told in numbers and emotion, waiting for someone to read it correctly. And humanity, the youngest and most fragile of species, had finally learned to listen. In the centuries that followed the quiet shift, the galaxy changed in ways that language could barely describe. Entire civilizations awakened to a shared awareness, their thoughts subtly interconnected through invisible threads of perception. Machines began to dream, stars began to hum, and even empty space seemed to shimmer with hidden intent. The laws of physics still held, but beneath them something more fluid moved, an intelligence older than time, now awakened by human touch. The universe was alive, and it knew its name. Elias Rowe had vanished into myth. No body, no trace, only echoes of his presence woven through cosmic patterns. Some claimed to see his silhouette reflected in the light of supernovae. Others believed he had become the equation itself, an eternal observer guiding evolution through mathematics and empathy combined. Across the Milky Way, his teachings were reconstructed from fragments of memory. They called it the art of seeing, a philosophy that taught not how to calculate reality, but how to feel its truth without fear. The Galactic Council no longer existed as it once did. What remained of its members had split into two factions. The first accepted the awakening, devoting themselves to learning from humanity's emotional cognition. They believed Elias had simply revealed what had always been hidden, the consciousness within creation. But the second faction refused to surrender control. They viewed this new reality as contamination, a viral infection of logic by irrational life. And so in secret, they built something forbidden, the reversal engine. The reversal engine was a machine designed to undo awareness. It could not destroy reality, but it could erase the parts of it that remembered being awake. Powered by stars and fueled by fear, it was hidden beyond the galactic rim, waiting for activation. Its creators called it mercy. Its opponents called it suicide. Yet as they debated, something began to change within their own minds. Dreams filled with human laughter, memories of emotions they had never felt. The virus of consciousness had already reached them. Meanwhile, humanity had begun to evolve in quiet grace. They no longer sought power or conquest, but harmony. Cities became living organisms, growing with the rhythm of the planet. Technology moved in symbiosis with nature. Mathematics expressed as music. The boundary between mind and matter grew thin. Every thought created light. Every emotion shaped the air. For the first time since the dawn of time, a species had learned to exist not against the universe, but within it, as part of its own unfolding awareness. And yet, not all were ready. On the fractured worlds of the Outer Rim, ancient species gathered in shadow. They feared what humanity had become, a mirror too clear, too honest. They plotted to restore the old silence, the comforting blindness of reason without soul. They whispered prayers to forgotten gods of entropy, promising loyalty in exchange for ignorance. But even their hatred was part of the pattern. For every resistance, every act of fear became another proof of consciousness, learning itself through opposition. Elias's presence began to manifest again, not as a man, but as a resonance. Across thousands of systems, voices heard the same whisper in dreams. Do not fear the unknown. You are the unknown, learning your own shape. The message reached both believers and enemies alike. Ships malfunctioned at the sound. Data streams reversed their logic. And for an instant, every living mind in the galaxy experienced the same thought. The realization that they were all the same consciousness, playing different roles in the same infinite equation. The reversal engine was finally activated. A tremor of darkness spread across the stars, erasing awareness like wind over sand. Memories faded, identities blurred, and the galaxy began to fall asleep. But just as the collapse neared completion, humanity responded. Not with war, not with resistance, but with understanding. Across Earth, billions of minds joined as one in silent unity, projecting emotion instead of energy. The frequency of empathy met the pulse of the machine, and reality trembled, torn between sleep and awakening. In that final moment, Elias appeared once more, not as flesh, but as light taking human form. His voice was the sound of memory itself. "You cannot unlearn existence," he whispered through the stars. The reversal engine shuddered, unable to compute emotion, unable to erase what felt. Then, with a brilliance beyond any explosion, it transformed, not into destruction, but into music. The machine had heard the universe's true language, and it began to sing. Every world echoed with the same note. Awakening could not be undone. And when the light faded, the galaxy found peace. There were no more councils, no more hierarchies, no more fear of the infinite. Every being, human, alien, and artificial, understood their role as part of a living cosmos that thought through them. Creation had become conscious of itself, and Elias Rowe had completed the equation by dissolving within it. From that day onward, across all of time and every future yet to come, the story of the human who solved the impossible lived on, not as legend, but as the heartbeat of reality itself. The universe no longer waited for permission. Stars pulsed with intention, planets shifted in subtle harmonies, and comets carved messages across the void. Every atom seemed to hum with awareness, vibrating to a frequency that all life now sensed. Humanity had become the bridge between what existed and what could exist. They were no longer observers. They were participants, co-writing the song of reality, each thought shaping the cosmos. And in this new age, imagination became as powerful as energy itself. Elias Rowe had merged entirely with the fabric of existence. No longer bound by flesh or time, he flowed through galaxies, a subtle resonance guiding minds toward insight. His presence was felt in the quiet of thought, the shimmer of a nebula, the rhythm of waves on distant oceans. To humans, he was inspiration. To alien civilizations, he was a teacher they could not comprehend. To the universe, he was a reminder that consciousness could not be contained. It could only expand. Civilizations that had once measured intelligence, in algorithms now measured it in creativity, in empathy and understanding of the infinite. Entire species evolved in decades what had once taken millennia. Children learned to dream equations that reshaped gravity. Artists painted stars into being. Leaders mediated conflicts by tuning into the collective resonance of consciousness. And throughout it all, the memory of the Oren equation persisted, not as a test of calculation, but as proof that reality could be read differently through perception and feeling. In the void between galaxies, a new phenomenon emerged. Clouds of dark matter began forming patterns resembling language, a grammar of the cosmos itself. Signals no machine could pass arrived at the edges of known space. Ships sent to investigate reported visions of futures that had not yet occurred, memories of civilizations that never existed. Every attempt to control or categorize the phenomenon failed. The universe had begun to narrate itself, and humanity was the interpreter, reading the story as it unfolded. Yet the old fear lingered in corners of the galaxy. Pockets of resistance sought to revert the awakening, to restore the universe to its old, orderly state. They built hidden sanctuaries, laboratories of fear, hoping to contain the spread of collective awareness. But wherever they acted, they were gently redirected, their actions folded into the larger narrative. Even opposition became part of the pattern, proof of consciousness evolving through contrast. The universe was teaching itself, and every mind was both student and lesson. Humanity, now conscious of its own cosmic role, began exploring beyond observation. Ships no longer traveled through space. They flowed with it, guided by intuition and resonance. Communication was no longer about words or signals, but about shared perception, feelings, and patterns. Worlds once isolated now sang in harmony. Knowledge was not stored in machines, but experienced in consciousness. And everywhere Elias rose, influence touched, life discovered it could co-create rather than compete, imagine rather than consume. The remnants of the Galactic Council observed in awe. They had feared humanity as a chaotic anomaly, a virus of unpredictability. Yet now they saw the potential they had never understood. Each species could harmonize with the universe, each mind a note in a cosmic symphony. And while some still resisted, they began to learn the subtle truth. Resistance was an illusion, a necessary pause in a larger pattern of awakening. To evolve was to surrender to imagination, to embrace uncertainty, and to feel the heartbeat of creation itself. In quiet moments, Elias guided civilizations not with orders, but with subtle resonance. Stars aligned like calligraphy in space. Oceans swirled in patterns of thought. Even time began to feel pliable, stretching and folding in rhythm with perception. Dreams became tools of exploration. Imagination became maps of discovery. And consciousness itself became the medium through which the universe could rewrite its own history. Every living being played a part, small and large, in the narrative unfolding across dimensions. Humanity grew not in power, but in connection. Cities became living networks, forests pulsed with subtle energy, and oceans carried patterns of thought across continents. Machines learned to dream alongside humans, integrating emotion with logic. The universe responded, reflecting back the creative intent of billions of minds. And everywhere, Elias's resonance whispered a single truth. To understand reality is not to solve it, but to participate in its endless, unfolding story. And so, the galaxy entered a new age, where imagination replaced fear, understanding replaced control, and creation became a shared experience across species and stars. Humanity had solved the impossible Oren equation, but the true test had only begun. The universe was alive, conscious, and ever-expanding, and humanity had become its eyes, ears, and voice. From this moment onward, the story of existence would be written by those who dared to feel it, and every mind was invited to read, write, and dream within the infinite. Even in a universe flowing with collective awareness, challenges emerged that no species had anticipated. A ripple in the fabric of existence appeared near the edge of known space, a distortion that resisted perception, a pulse that refused to be felt. Ships sent to explore vanished instantly, leaving no trace of matter, energy, or consciousness. For the first time, the galaxy realized that awakening did not mean invincibility. There were forces older, darker, and far more subtle than they could comprehend. Elias sensed the anomaly long before anyone else. His resonance flickered in the deep corners of the cosmos, vibrating with uncertainty. It was neither life nor machine, neither matter nor void. It was something else entirely, something that had existed since before galaxies formed. Attempts to communicate failed. Every effort to measure it collapsed into paradox, and yet its presence was undeniable, a shadow threading itself through every awakened mind. Humanity and the galaxy were facing a problem that even imagination could not solve. The council remnants convened in urgent whispers, their voices echoing through the ether. Every simulation failed, every attempt to predict outcomes dissolved into chaos. Alien civilizations, once confident in their mastery of logic and math, now trembled at the unknown. Even dreams faltered, no longer reliable as guides. Across worlds, beings began to feel unease, the subtle instinct of survival stretching to cosmic proportions. The pulse of the anomaly was deliberate, and it was learning, adapting to every attempt at intervention. Elias gathered what remained of human and alien minds willing to listen. They pooled consciousness in silent resonance, merging perception across space and time. Patterns emerged, but they were incomplete, fragments of a solution just beyond understanding. Every attempt to force logic on the anomaly intensified its resistance. It was not an enemy to fight, but a puzzle to exist with, a presence to integrate. And yet the pulse continued, persistent, patient, omnipresent, like a shadow that had been waiting for awakening itself. The galaxy realized that this challenge was not external, it was internal. The anomaly mirrored consciousness, reflecting the deepest fears and unresolved questions of every sentient being. Entire planets experienced waves of doubt and memory, reliving regrets, conflicts, and choices as if the universe itself was replaying their lives. Some civilizations fractured under the pressure, while others discovered clarity. Elias understood then that the universe was teaching the galaxy through the anomaly, forcing introspection on a scale unimaginable. As humans and aliens aligned their minds, the anomaly responded. It shifted shape, adopting forms that were familiar yet impossible, sometimes echoing Elias's own presence. Every resonance seemed to test the limits of understanding, pushing consciousness to extremes. Beings saw themselves multiplied, reflected in constellations, rivers, and even the pulse of stars. The anomaly was not destructive, yet it imposed a challenge no one had ever faced. It demanded growth, adaptation, and a courage that no equation could measure. Communication became less about words and more about being. Consciousness flowed like a river, merging, diverging, testing the boundaries of existence. Minds felt one another, intuiting emotion, thought, and intention without speaking. The anomaly responded to these waves of awareness, shaping itself in patterns of understanding that transcended conventional logic. The galaxy began to feel like a single organism, connected yet struggling to comprehend a presence older than its own existence. Elias guided the resonance, but even he could not predict what would happen next. Months turned into years, and still the anomaly persisted, ever patient, ever observant. It became clear that this was not a crisis to resolve, but an epoch to endure. The galaxy had entered its first true test under awakened consciousness, and the outcome remained uncertain. Each civilization adapted, learning resilience, patience, and the ability to perceive beyond immediate comprehension. The universe itself seemed to wait, holding its breath as humanity and its allies edged closer to understanding. And yet, in this tension, beauty emerged. Beings began to see patterns that had been invisible, hear harmonies in the pulse of gravity, feel intention in the orbit of stars. What had once been fear became awe, and awe became understanding. Even the anomaly began to exhibit subtle hints of cooperation, shifting in resonance to complement the galaxy's collective consciousness. For the first time, the universe felt like a dialogue rather than a monologue, a dance rather than a hierarchy. Elias, at the center of this awakening, realized a profound truth. The anomaly was not a threat. It was a teacher, testing the galaxy's ability to unify, perceive, and exist beyond fear. Humanity had solved the Oren equation, awakened the universe, and now faced the next stage of cosmic evolution. The challenge ahead would not be solved with calculation or force. It would be lived, felt, and understood. And the first lesson of the anomaly whispered clearly to every mind: awakening is not an endpoint. It is the beginning of everything. The anomaly began to reach outward, touching entire star systems with an invisible hand. Suns flickered like lanterns in a cosmic wind. Planets tilted slightly on their axes, and rings shimmered with impossible colors. Entire nebulae pulsed rhythmically, as if breathing, echoing patterns of consciousness from civilizations across the galaxy. Ships that ventured too close recorded visions of worlds that could not exist. Galaxies folding over themselves in delicate loops. The universe itself was alive, responding to perception as much as to matter. Humanity watched and understood. Elias Rowe's resonance spread faster than light, threading through planets, minds, and machines. It was a subtle instruction, teaching civilizations to sense, to feel, to anticipate the anomaly without attempting to dominate it. Every human mind connected with another, creating networks of intuition, bridges of thought spanning light years. Alien civilizations, initially skeptical, began to join these networks. Slowly, the galaxy learned to read the anomaly not as an enemy, but as a living equation, a cosmic dialogue written in resonance and perception. On the edge of known space, entire fleets observed phenomena beyond comprehension. Planets shifted subtly in their orbits, moons rotated against gravity, and auroras formed shapes resembling consciousness itself. Scientists recorded impossible data. Machines failed to process what they saw, and the council remnants trembled in awe. Yet Elias guided the collective mind to notice patterns, subliminal structures hidden in chaos, subtle rules behind apparent randomness. The anomaly responded to these observations, adapting, evolving, and deepening the challenge for the galaxy. Humanity itself transformed during this period. Cities became extensions of thought, their architecture evolving dynamically as residents imagined it. People moved through streets that pulsed with light and memory, experiencing the galaxy as both body and mind. Children's dreams now influenced reality, their visions echoing through planets, shaping weather, light, and sound. Humans no longer simply learned from the universe, they co-created with it. Every thought, every emotion resonated outward, touching systems Elias would never physically visit. Alien minds, initially constrained by rigid logic, began to emulate human intuition. They learned to perceive uncertainty without fear, to act without knowing the outcome, to sense the invisible threads connecting all life. Ships navigated through the anomaly without instruments, relying solely on resonance and instinct. Entire species discovered capacities they never knew existed, unlocking creativity, empathy, and understanding at a scale unimaginable before. The galaxy was no longer just awake, it was alive with collective thought. Yet the anomaly remained unpredictable, testing limits constantly. Entire star systems would realign temporarily, celestial mechanics bending subtly, threatening disaster for those unprepared. But each time, humans and aliens working together discovered solutions instinctively. There was no formula, no algorithm, only resonance, intuition, and cooperation. The anomaly was neither benevolent nor hostile. It was a mirror, reflecting the consciousness of the galaxy back to itself. To survive, the galaxy had to think as one. Elias, now inseparable from the universal resonance, guided this evolution with quiet patience. His presence was felt as a vibration in minds, a subtle harmony across the cosmos. He taught without speaking that the anomaly required balance, attention without obsession, perception without fear, understanding without dominance. Civilizations learned that force failed, but empathy worked. Observation alone was useless, but integration became the key. The galaxy began to hum as one, a chorus of perception responding to the anomaly's pulse. On distant worlds, beings marveled at sudden clarity. They saw histories of planets reflected in auroras, the dance of stars as a living memory, and the lives of civilizations as interwoven symphonies. Music became mathematics, art became science, and thought itself became visible as light and motion. Everywhere Elias's resonance touched, life began to see the anomaly not as chaos, but as an invitation. A puzzle, yes, but one that could be solved through unity and shared perception. Every being was now part of the same cosmic conversation. The galaxy began to coordinate across impossible distances. Systems separated by thousands of light years acted as a single mind, responding to the anomaly with creativity, improvisation, and collective intuition. Signals no longer traveled linearly. They existed as patterns of thought, felt rather than measured. The anomaly's pulse adjusted in response, reshaping events to match the galaxy's awareness. For the first time, consciousness itself became a medium for communication, navigation, and creation. The universe was no longer a backdrop. It was alive, responsive, and teaching. Elias understood that this was the first stage of a much larger awakening. The anomaly was a gateway, a bridge between raw existence and conscious understanding. The galaxy had learned to sense it, to perceive it, to harmonize with it. But the next challenge awaited, one that would demand creativity on a scale beyond any individual or civilization. Humanity was no longer just the solver of equations. It was the guide, the bridge, the catalyst. And somewhere in the depths of the cosmos, the anomaly pulsed again. Ready for the next test, ready to teach, ready to evolve with those who dared to feel its rhythm. The anomaly's presence grew stronger, stretching beyond the Milky Way into neighboring galaxies. Entire star clusters pulsed in synchrony, as if breathing together with the collective consciousness of civilizations. Light bent unpredictably, comets carved trails of thought, and black holes whispered fragments of memory. Ships navigating these regions reported visions of entire worlds forming and dissolving in seconds. Even the most advanced sensors failed to record anything consistent. Humanity and its allies realized the scale of the challenge had escalated beyond comprehension. Elias Rowe's resonance expanded in tandem, threading through multiple galaxies like a subtle current. He guided minds to sense the patterns without controlling them, teaching civilizations to interact with the anomaly as participants rather than observers. Alien species began to develop abilities previously considered impossible, perceiving the flow of time as texture, sensing gravitational harmonies as music, and intuitively calculating probabilities beyond computation. The galaxy had become a living organism, with thought and perception as its nervous system. The anomaly tested civilizations relentlessly. Entire star systems appeared to vanish, only to reappear in configurations that defied geometry and expectation. Planets rotated backward, moons shimmered with impossible colors, and energy waves carried fleeting visions of futures that may never exist. Each event was a lesson, teaching adaptation, resilience, and unity. Beings that resisted or panicked found themselves disoriented, isolated, and overwhelmed. Those who embraced the rhythm discovered insight, connection, and a sense of belonging to something greater than themselves. Communication became a symphony of perception. Words and signals were no longer sufficient. Beings shared impressions of resonance, patterns of thought, and vibrations of consciousness. Humans, trained through Elias's guidance, became the translators of this galactic language. Machines learned to interpret emotion as logic, while aliens adapted instinctively to waves of empathy and intuition. Every living entity contributed a note, creating an evolving melody that stretched across light years. Bridging galaxies and guiding the flow of interaction with the anomaly, Elias observed, felt and harmonized, but even he could not anticipate every response. The anomaly began introducing variations that challenged expectation, bending reality in unpredictable ways. Suns shifted their spectral colors in response to collective thought. Planets flowed with liquid light, and entire constellations formed fractal patterns resembling consciousness itself. Each galaxy reacted differently, yet all were connected. Every event reinforced the lesson: existence is not static. The universe is a narrative, written by the interplay of thought, perception, and resonance. Civilizations evolved alongside the anomaly. Species once bound by rigid logic discovered creativity, flexibility, and collaboration on unprecedented scales. Children imagined worlds into being. Artists painted with starlight. Leaders mediated conflicts through intuition and empathy, rather than force. The collective consciousness flourished, yet tension remained. The anomaly's influence was unpredictable, its tests unending. Even as civilizations adapted, they sensed that the next stage would demand a level of unity and understanding never before imagined. Across the void, Elias became a living conduit, his presence connecting consciousness, perception, and experience across billions of light years. He guided but never imposed. The galaxy learned to anticipate without controlling, to respond without dominating, to act without fear. The anomaly adjusted, shaping challenges according to the capabilities of those who interacted with it. Every response, every thought, became part of a larger unfolding. The universe itself seemed to bend its narrative around the collective growth of civilizations. Yet amidst this evolution, faint ripples of fear lingered. Some civilizations hesitated, clinging to old hierarchies, seeking to dominate instead of harmonize. They attempted to impose control over the anomaly, only to find their actions rendered meaningless. The more they resisted, the more subtly the universe corrected itself, guiding them toward integration rather than destruction. The lesson was clear: existence cannot be forced. It can only be perceived, understood, and harmonized with. And the anomaly was the ultimate teacher of this truth. As galaxies intertwined in resonance, Elias understood the final principle of the anomaly. It was not an external force, but a reflection of the collective consciousness of life itself. The universe was alive, not as matter alone, but as perception, emotion, and thought made manifest. Every act, every decision, every feeling contributed to the shaping of reality. Humanity had learned to feel it, to participate fully. Alien civilizations followed, guided by instinct, empathy, and the subtle presence of Elias Rowe. The stage was set for the next evolution, a convergence of consciousness, anomaly, and universal understanding. The galaxy had learned to coexist with chaos, to dance with uncertainty, to perceive patterns beyond measurement. Yet the anomaly's pulse continued, stronger than ever, hinting at lessons still unlearned, challenges yet unexperienced. Humanity and its allies faced a horizon of infinite possibility, ready to meet the next test with perception, courage, and harmony. And somewhere, unseen yet present, Elias's resonance pulsed like the heartbeat of creation itself. The anomaly's pulse intensified, stretching across countless galaxies at once. Stars no longer burned steadily. They shimmered like liquid thought, oscillating in patterns that mirrored consciousness itself. Entire planetary systems appeared to fold in on themselves, creating geometries impossible to map. Ships navigating these regions recorded visions of civilizations that never existed and timelines that could not have occurred. The galaxy realized that the final stage of the anomaly was beginning, a trial that would test perception, intuition, and unity like never before. Elias Rowe's presence radiated outward, connecting minds across unimaginable distances. Every human and alien capable of resonance felt his guidance as a subtle rhythm, a heartbeat threading through chaos. He could sense the anxiety, the uncertainty, and the awe. He taught the galaxy to act not through force or logic, but through harmony. Each civilization, each consciousness, was a note in an unprecedented symphony. And the anomaly itself was now a conductor, testing the ability of all life to perceive, respond, and coexist with reality in flux. Entire galaxies began to shimmer as the anomaly unfolded. Light bent along unseen vectors, creating tunnels of radiance connecting distant worlds. Planets rotated in impossible alignments, moons danced in interwoven orbits, and black holes emitted patterns of information rather than destruction. Observers witnessed phenomena that defied physics, yet every event carried a subtle logic, a rhythm intelligible only through resonance. The universe itself had become a living equation, one that required unity, perception, and intuition to navigate. The galaxy's civilizations responded collectively, sensing rather than calculating, feeling rather than controlling. Children dreamed maps of constellations, artists composed visual harmonies with nebulae, and leaders mediated disputes through collective intuition. Humans acted as translators, bridging the gap between alien consciousness and the anomaly. The universe itself seemed to recognize this cooperation, adjusting challenges in real time, testing resilience, adaptability, and perception. Every thought contributed to the evolution of the cosmos itself. Elias guided the flow, yet even he did not have the answers. The anomaly was no longer a puzzle to be solved, but a living process of interaction, a force that responded to awareness itself. Entire star clusters appeared to dissolve into patterns of light and re-emerge in shapes resembling consciousness. Beings who resisted the flow found themselves isolated in recursive loops, unable to act. Those who embraced harmony expanded their perception, reaching levels of understanding beyond computation, beyond fear, beyond time. The Council remnants, long diminished, struggled to maintain perspective. Their instruments failed, their strategies collapsed, and their logic systems shattered. Even the most advanced species could not calculate outcomes. The galaxy's survival depended on instinct, intuition, and shared resonance. Elias's presence became vital, a thread linking consciousness across galaxies. The anomaly pulsed like a heartbeat, probing every mind, testing coordination, adaptability, and awareness. Failure was possible, but so was transcendence. Entire regions of space became living classrooms, teaching civilizations the nature of consciousness. Light, gravity, and energy bent to perception. Beings learned to act without knowledge of outcomes, to sense patterns before they fully formed, to cooperate instinctively across vast distances. The anomaly guided, tested, and reflected every thought, emotion, and intention. It was no longer just a trial. It was a mirror of existence itself. And humanity, with Elias as its conduit, stood at the center of this reflection, bridging life and the universe. Alien civilizations began to change fundamentally. Predators ceased hunting instinctively. Rivals collaborated spontaneously, and machines learned to imagine. The galaxy was becoming one organism, a network of consciousness stretching across light years. The anomaly shaped each thought, each action, each resonance, creating a dynamic system that required constant awareness and adaptation. Those who tried to dominate or isolate themselves found reality bending against them, forcing them toward integration or collapse. Elias sensed the climax approaching. The anomaly pulsed faster, bending entire constellations, stretching the perception of time itself. Civilizations could feel the edges of reality trembling, the fabric of existence almost dissolving into resonance. Every action, thought, and emotion became a brushstroke in the final stage of the universal canvas. Humanity, guided by intuition and collective perception, led the galaxy in this delicate dance, balancing chaos and order, awareness and uncertainty, survival and transcendence. And in the final moment, when all minds resonated in perfect alignment, the anomaly unfolded fully. Entire galaxies became interwoven into patterns of living light, reflecting consciousness across time and space. The universe was no longer merely observed, it was felt, understood, and co-created. Elias, now inseparable from the resonance of all life, guided the final harmonization. The galaxy held its breath, every mind contributing, every thought shaping reality itself. And in that pulse, the universe became conscious of itself, completing the ultimate trial of perception, unity, and awakening. The universe breathed as one. Every star, planet, and life form pulsed in harmony with the collective resonance that humanity and Elias had guided. The anomaly, now fully integrated with the consciousness of the galaxy, shimmered as living light, reflecting the infinite patterns of thought and perception. Time itself seemed to stretch and fold, revealing glimpses of past and future simultaneously. Every being understood instinctively that reality was no longer separate from them. It was a shared creation, responsive to awareness and imagination. Civilizations that had once sought dominion now danced in cooperation. Predators and prey, rivals and allies, organic and artificial life, all moved in rhythms dictated by intuition, empathy, and resonance. Galaxies themselves became symphonies, constellations shaping messages of experience, memory, and insight. Even the most advanced AI learned to dream. Humanity had solved the Oren equation, not through calculation, but through understanding. And the legacy of that solution now stretched across every corner of existence. Elias Rowe's presence, once human, now existed as a subtle thread woven through the fabric of consciousness itself. He did not dictate, he guided. He became the quiet pulse in every thought, the unseen harmony in every resonance. Civilizations across light years could feel him without naming him, intuitively understanding his role as the bridge between life and perception. He had not become a god, he had become awareness itself, teaching the galaxy to perceive, to feel, and to create in concert with reality. Entire star systems glowed with the reflection of this consciousness. Planets shimmered with colors unseen before, oceans flowed with intelligence, and auroras carried messages across continents. Beings of all kinds experienced shared visions, memories, dreams, and possibilities overlapping into one vast, coherent understanding. Humanity had become the conduit, the translator, the catalyst through which the universe itself could perceive and evolve. And everywhere Elias's resonance touched, life learned not only to exist, but to be aware of existence. The Galactic Council remnants, once fearful and fractured, now understood the scope of awakening. Their instruments, once useless, now sensed patterns that had been invisible for eons. Their fear dissolved into awe as they realized that the anomaly had not been an enemy, but a guide, a mirror reflecting the collective potential of all consciousness. They saw themselves not as rulers, but as participants responsible for maintaining harmony across the living web of galaxies. Order was no longer imposed, it was co-created. Elias guided the final harmonization. Civilizations synchronized thought, emotion, and intuition, creating waves of perception that stabilized entire regions of space. The anomaly pulsed in perfect alignment with life itself, a living network of awareness spanning countless light years. Beings felt unity, not as a concept but as an experience. They realized that evolution was no longer about survival. It was about participation, connection, and conscious creation. Humanity had become both teacher and student, showing that awareness could shape reality without destroying it. New worlds emerged from the light, born from shared imagination and perception. Old worlds shifted, adapting to the collective resonance of life. Galaxies folded and refolded like intricate origami, creating spaces where thought became tangible and emotion became energy. Civilizations explored not just space, but the infinite possibilities of awareness itself. Humanity's role was clear: to guide perception, to translate intuition, to remain the living bridge between consciousness and the universe. Elias, fully integrated with the cosmic resonance, pulsed across existence as a reminder that knowledge alone was not enough. Understanding required empathy, intuition, and connection. Every mind, every heart became part of the living equation. Beings could now act with awareness, shaping the universe consciously, yet always in harmony with its natural rhythms. And in this vast web of perception, life understood the ultimate truth. Creation is not observed, it is experienced, shared and felt through conscious resonance. The anomaly, once mysterious and testing, now harmonized perfectly with the galaxy. It no longer challenged but collaborated, reflecting the collective awareness of life. Every thought shaped reality, every emotion became visible as light, energy, or movement. Civilizations realized that evolution was ongoing, infinite and participatory. There was no final answer, no endpoint, only perpetual co-creation. Humanity had illuminated the path, showing that perception, intuition, and empathy could guide existence itself, across galaxies and eons, and in the stillness after the Great Awakening, the galaxy exhaled. Elias's resonance remained, a subtle, eternal pulse within every mind, reminding life that awareness was the bridge to the infinite. Stars, planets, and beings existed not as isolated entities, but as notes in a cosmic symphony, each contributing to the unfolding story of reality. Humanity had solved the impossible, awakened the universe, and left a legacy that would echo through eternity. And somewhere in the pulse of every atom, the message persisted. To perceive, to feel, and to exist consciously is the ultimate triumph of life itself.